What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. We're still doing 3 videos a week right now, so we don't want you to miss out on any of those future videos. Okay, so today we are diving into a viewer question. A viewer commented this on one of my recent videos and asked, some of my favorite baits for skipping. Whether that be under trees, under docks, whatever you're trying to get your bait to skip up underneath, it can be a little bit tricky if you're not using the right bait. So what we're gonna talk about here today is a few baits that I like to use that they get bites when you put them into those tight places whenever you skip it up underneath cover. But on the other side of it is it makes your job easier as far as these baits help you get your bait underneath things further. Choosing the correct bait or the correct trailer, which we'll get into here shortly, can definitely help you and make skipping a whole lot easier. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. And hopefully you guys can use this to apply to your own fishing and get out on the water and catch some more bass. That's the goal of this channel, is to help you guys catch more bass. So hopefully you can do that from this video here today. Okay, so whenever I'm thinking of, really fishing in general, you kind of categorize bass fishing into a couple different categories of baits. So for me, we're going to talk about moving baits is number one here. As far as baits, we're going to talk about skipping. So you're going to have a moving bait category, and then you're going to have that slow fishing category, whether it's dragging or just a bait that you got to fish a little bit slower. So we got 2 categories of baits we're going to talk about here for skipping. And in the first category, I've got a few baits right here. And obviously, I just said this is going to be the moving bait category. So number one for me, if I'm skipping around boat docks or overhanging trees or something that I want to just cover a lot of water with, the first thing I'm picking up is going to be a chatterbait. A chatterbait skips extremely well. It's kind of due to the head design and just the overall profile of a chatterbait. Whenever you cast and skip this thing, it really likes to skip well. But there's something I do a little bit different. So this is actually just the Evo version of a chatterbait. So it's a little bit cheaper version than, say, the jackhammer. And honestly, I like that for whenever I'm skipping, because let's be honest, I'm not the best caster out there. So I know I'm going to smash this into things, and I don't want to be breaking up my jackhammers and smashing it into docks or snagging it in trees. So I go with the little bit cheaper version of a chatterbait whenever I'm skipping it around. But what I like to do a little bit different is I actually use a little bit bigger trailer than I typically would on my chatterbaits. If you guys follow me in the channel, you guys know I love that 3-inch Zaco for pretty much all of my chatterbait needs when I'm fishing offshore, in grass. I feel like it gives it a little bit more erratic action. But whenever I'm skipping, I like the 4-inch Zaco because it's a little bit bulkier trailer. It adds a little more plastic there, a little more surface area to hit that water and skip. It really helps skip up under things. So the 4-inch Zaco on a chatterbait, number one choice for skipping if I want to cover water. That's, like I said, this is something that skips well. You cast it, you wind it, it's going to get bites regardless of what you do. You can't fish a chatterbait wrong. It's going to get bites. But putting that 4-inch trailer on there really makes your job easier as far as skipping up underneath there. So if you want to get a little bit bigger profile bait and, catch maybe a little bit bigger fish or just target fish with a little more silent presentation, going to pick up a Swimbait. So this is just a 5-inch paddle tail Swimbait right here. Your mag drafts work really well for skipping. They skip extremely well, but they have an exposed treble hook. So that's not the best for every situation that you may encounter. This one right here, obviously he's rigged weedless on a belly weighted hook. That's the Trocar TK 170. So it's the 5/0 hook for this 5-inch Swimbait, but it's a 1/4 ounce. So that's the key here, is it's a 1/4 ounce weight. So it's fairly light, and you have this big bodied swim bait that can hit the water and skip its way in wherever you may want to go. Like this bait right here will skip like a rock. You can get it up under docks, into trees and laydowns and things like that. That's where I really like this rigging method versus, say, like a mag draft style swim bait with a harness and a treble hook on it, because this is very weedless. You can pull him up through trees, and if you do mess up your cast and get it into the branches or the dock or whatever, he's pretty weedless and he's gonna come through a lot of that cover. So that's why I go with this. But a paddle tail swim bait, excellent bait that skips well, gets in there, targets some big fish, and it doesn't make any noise. You know, a chatterbait, it's in there vibrating, knocking, making a lot of noise. This is gonna be pretty silent, just swimming along. So it's gonna be more of a visual strike for you know, your cleaner water, but catches a lot of big fish. Paddle tail swim bait skips extremely well. Last up, you know, is gonna be something that it's kind of the opposite spectrum of that, and that's gonna be a buzz bait. Now, you may not think of a buzz bait as a great bait to skip, but what makes a buzz bait skip is taking the skirt off and adding a flat style trailer. So you see right here, I have added the Big Bite Baits FAFO. It's a very flat bodied trailer, gives a big surface area for this buzz bait. As you cast it, it can hit the water and skip up under trees or under docks or wherever you're skipping. You know, you can do that with the FAFO here. So like I said, this is a very flat bodied, I took it off the buzz bait, so hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. But adding that surface area on there really helps a buzzbait skip. You know, if you just had a skirted buzzbait, it's not going to skip very well. So adding the correct trailer to a buzzbait can allow you to skip it up underneath there. You know, a lot of guys like to use a horny toad or a ribbit style topwater frog, but I've found that you get a little bit better hookup ratio if you can use these smaller or thinner style trailers that are still that same width or surface area of, you know, say a ribbit style bait, because there's a little less plastic there to get in the way and interfere with your hookup ratio. So if you can use a thinner style trailer like this FAFO, or, you know, any beaver style or cross style trailer like that, really helps you skip a buzzbait and get some really explosive bites on a buzzbait, because it's, you know, that's a presentation that they don't really see much in those tight pieces of cover that you're putting that bait. So buzzbait has to be on the list, but the key with the buzzbait is going to be the trailer that you put on it. Okay, next up we're going to move into the slow fishing baits, or, you know, you're more of your dragging or slower fishing techniques. And you can't really talk about skipping boat docks without talking about a jig. You know, a jig catches bass no matter where you put it, but a jig skips really well, and you can put it into those tight little places. You can fish it anywhere. It can mimic any type of forage. So a jig is an excellent choice. This one right here I have rigged up with the brand new Yamamoto Shinobi Grub. So it's a small little compact trailer, but the same thing applies for a jig. The wider or flatter trailer that you put on there, the easier this bait is going to skip. So if you put, you know, a wide trailer, just like we talked about on the buzz bait, that wider and flatter style bodied trailer, it just helps keep that bait skipping across the surface and not wanting to nosedive. Now, another thing on that is going to be the weight of your bait. So when I'm skipping a jig, I like a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce. You don't really want to get up into those heavier jigs, you know, the 3/4, 5/8, just because that extra weight is going to want to make that jig nosedive and not skip as well, regardless of the trailer you have on it. So this jig right here, this is actually a Epic Baits tungsten jig that I kind of helped design with them. It's kind of a universal jig. You can do a lot of things with it. But what makes this unique, it's tungsten, but it has a flat spot there on the head. hopefully you guys can see that. There is a flat spot right there. So it actually helps skip. You know, that's kind of what I was going for there, is that flat spot. You know, if that jig starts to nosedive, it hits that flat spot and there's that wider surface area that's going to help that bait skip. You know, just think of, you know, if you were skipping a rock, you want those rounder, flatter rocks, and the same thing applies to your jig or any bait you're trying to skip. So that little flat spot on there really helps that bait skip and get up underneath there. But you can't talk about skipping docks without putting the jig on your list. So next up, probably the most popular. If there's one thing more popular than a jig, it's gonna be a Senko. 5-inch Senko skips probably better than anything. It's caught more bass skipping around trees, under boat docks. It doesn't matter where you put it, a 5-inch Senko, it's gonna skip well, catch you a bunch of fish, whether you're rigging it wacky style, Texas style, doesn't matter. 5-inch Senko's gotta be on the list. But I got another sneaky little bait here that kind of falls into that same category that you may not think about for skipping. And that's actually gonna be the Yamamoto Yamatanuki. So it's a little bit smaller, bulkier profile. You know, what is this? This is the 3.5-inch Yamatanuki, but it's that same heavy-weighted plastic that skips extremely well across the surface. And you can have that same weightless presentation, a little bit smaller, bulkier profile, and catch a lot of fish. If there's one thing that skips maybe a little bit better than a Senko, it would be the Yamatanuki, just because it's a little bit heavier. You can get away with skipping this on a bait caster even if you wanted, compared to a Senko is probably more of a spinning rod skipping technique. But the Yamatanuki, excellent way. You know, for me, rigging him can be a little tricky because of the bulk of the bait, the size of the bait, you know, just the bulky, small profile of a Yamatanuki. Rigging him can be a little tricky, but for me, I actually like a screw lock style hook minus the belly weight. So a screw lock hook for the Yamatanuki really rigs him well, allows him to skip and do exactly what he wants. But there's a few baits that skip extremely well that are gonna catch fish in those places, and hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Hopefully you can use this video and apply it to your own fishing and get out there and catch some more bass. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave me those likes and comments down below. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.